a baby is born, one of the first challenges the parents have is to pick out a name for the child. In times gone past, picking out a name wasn't usually that big of a deal, because children were often named after one of the parents or after some family member or friend. But nowadays, it seems that many parents aren't doing that. They aren't picking out traditional sorts of names. Instead, in many cases, they're trying to be much more creative. One trend is for parents to name their children after their favorite products. For instance, right now in the United States, there are more than 500 boys and more than 700 girls who have been named Harley. In most cases, because the parents are big Harley-Davidson motorcycle fans. Parents are also naming their children after their favorite kind of car. And so right now in our country, there are more than 55 boys who are named Chevy. And still other parents name their children after their favorite beverage. So there's a little girl who was named Shasta after the pop by that name. And another girl was named Pepsi. But perhaps the oddest name of all I've come across is ESPN. Two little boys, one in Michigan and one in Texas, were both named ESPN in honor of the cable TV sports channel. As we read through the Gospels, though, we find that God did not leave it up to Mary and Joseph to pick out a name for their child. Maybe that's because God didn't want us to end up with a savior named Bubba or Exxon. No, according to the story that we just listened to from the Gospel of Luke, when the angel Gabriel showed up to Mary, Gabriel instructed Mary to name the child Jesus, a name that means God saves. But why did God insist on that particular name? If Jesus means God saves, what exactly is it that God is saving us from? About 10 years or so ago, when I lived in Vanderbilt, in Westmoreland County, one December I had a Christmas party open house at my home. It was an opportunity for church members to stop by and to visit and to get something to eat and drink. And I set it up so that people could stop by any time from 3 until 7. And on that particular Saturday, about 40 or 50 people stopped by. And it seemed that everyone had a good time. But the real excitement didn't take place until the party was almost over. You see, around 6:30 that evening, the only guests who were still there were about 8 of the 6th and 7th graders. They had gone out in the backyard to play, but all of a sudden, one of them came crashing through the back door and said, Ed, you've got to come quick. There's a cat up in a tree. So I put my coat on and went outside to see what they were talking about. And sure enough, there was a cat, probably a stray, that had somehow managed to get itself stuck up on top of a 30-foot high maple tree. Probably the cat had climbed up the adjacent tree and then jumped over to the maple tree. But when he landed there and saw that there weren't too many branches on the maple tree, the cat figured that he was stuck. So the kids asked me what we could do to save the cat. A couple of the kids had already run over to the base of the tree tree and had tried to shake it to see if that might motivate the cat to come down. But all that really did was cause the cat to hang on for dear life all the more right where he was. A couple other kids had gotten a coat and had stretched it out and were standing underneath the tree like firemen to catch the cat in case it fell. Now, I had never had much experience in dealing with cats up in trees before, but I told a couple of the kids to run inside and to get some of the shrimp that I was serving and put it on a plate at the base of the tree to see if that might entice the cat to come down. But that didn't work either. Eventually, it was getting on past 7 o'clock, the time when the party was supposed to be over. And I was beginning to feel kind of tired from hosting the event all day. But when I suggested to those kids that they just go home and that the cat would figure things out for himself, they got these horrified looks on their faces and pleaded with me that I had to do something to save the cat.